What is up? Welcome, everybody, to the Creed of Crypto live stream. I am Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host, Crypto Ewok. We decided to go live about a half hour earlier than usual tonight here at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because hot off the press, obviously, unless you've been living under a rock for the last half hour or so, Richard Hart responds to the SEC. Him and his 11 lawyers actually have filed a response and are looking to file a motion to dismiss. We are going live now to really get into it and get into the nitty gritty in video format of everything that is in that response. Didn't seem like anybody else had gotten the chance to start doing that yet, since this did just come out literally within the last hour or two. Obviously, the HEX conference with Matty Allen is going right now, which we are huge fans of. We've watched every minute of it the last 3 days. Feel free to go over there if you want to. We right now, though, are going to be specifically focusing on this and kind of combing through it. I know a lot of people are already doing it on Twitter, which thanks to them, people are having it summarized and things like that. But hey, we figured why not provide you also with kind of a video element to go along with this so we can kind of react to the news. So all things considered, hit the like on the way in. We appreciate all of you guys being here. Support real DeFi, support PulseChain, and everything we got going on here. We really appreciate you guys being here. We do this every Tuesday night, usually at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, but we're going live early tonight. Ewok, how are you feeling overall about this news, the green candles, everything we got going on right now?
A lot to take in, but for the most part, I think it's a pretty good day to be a hexakin or a pulsekin or whatever in the Richard Hart ecosystem. You got a guy like that who's willing to fight for our rights and freedoms and hire 11 fairly high power attorneys to go after it. So, I hope it dispels a lot of rumors. Well, why is he on the run? All this, why, it gets it out there. And also I hope it means that he will be filling his slot in the HEX conference tonight live. Maybe he'll address a little bit of it if whatever he's allowed to talk about, maybe.
Yeah.
But now that it's out there, hopefully he can make an appearance. I think that starts at 10 o'clock Eastern for that slot,
right.
I believe. So yeah, but all in all, man, it's great news. It's very bullish. Plus the other things that are happening in the background. So.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize, and maybe you are confirming it, I didn't realize that it was even confirmed that he would have a slot technically there. But if that is true and that's what's going to happen tonight, that would be awesome, whether it's taped or live or whatever it may be.
Right.
But yeah, we just wanted to get live so we could go over this and review everything that's going on right now. Lost my train of thought. There was another point you brought up there, but the HEX conference obviously has been fantastic. It's just a huge week, and today has just been such a gigantic news day. I mean, we had a show pretty much planned, and then in the last 2 hours, I mean, this is us talking about this right now is like the 2.0 story, because a few minutes ago, it was going to be the SEC Twitter account being compromised and tweeting that they were approving all of the ETFs. Not that we care all that much about a Bitcoin ETF, but that they were approving all of them. And then suddenly, oh, no, we were compromised, quote unquote. And we're not approving any of them. That wasn't us, which funnily enough, I said to you, Ewok, didn't we just have this happen like 2 months ago? I believe.
Yeah. Coin Bureau put something out.
I think it's Telegram or Telegraph.
Something. Yeah. One of those news channels, the breaking news type thing. And then, we see green candles go crazy, and then all of a sudden 20 minutes later it's confirmed that it's not true. Right. So, and then the big red candle back down to where it was. So, I do find it funny though when people say it's all priced in. Clearly it's not, right? I mean, you're seeing that kind of action happen right away when there's an announcement, and then the inverse reaction whenever it's said that it's not true. So
right,
definitely not priced in. A lot of people seem to be waiting for that news. See what happens. I'm not a huge fan of the ETFs. I think it's going to eventually manipulate prices and make it not as good as it could have been without them. But we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, I am totally with you. I mean, the fact that people that was kind of going to be the point about all that is like the fact that people are so hell-bent on an ETF and wanting it so badly and everything just shows. I mean, most of the people that we see on crypto Twitter now, especially, more of the Bitcoin maxi types, are just not really interested in crypto anymore. I mean, it's more so about wider adoption and having things like an ETF be approved. And I totally understand wanting clear regulation. That I totally understand, and what we're talking about tonight with Richard Hart and this ecosystem versus the SEC and, just things like that. Anybody versus the SEC in crypto. I mean, like we want all of these entities, Coinbase, Kraken, everybody that's dealing with the SEC. A lot of it is to get clarity that they haven't provided. I heard a comparison earlier today. Oh, I think it was Sami talking about like what they do is the equivalent of a cop on the beat, like pulling you over for speeding while he's like, trying to lecture you about your driving while he's rear-ending you or something like that.
Right.
Or less than at one time. You don't even have the proper legislation. You don't have any clarity, and we're going to also punish you for that. It's not really
right.
It's a tale as old as time. We've talked about this for a long, long time with the SEC.
Got a guy here who wants to know how to sell HEX.
He wants to sell HEX.
Apparently, okay. I mean, it might be a bad time to do that, but
MetaMask,
MetaMask isn't blocking the transaction. If you go to ethhex.com, should take care of it for you right away.
Yeah, pretty sure you can do that there. I mean, we've had quite a rally today, and we'll get into that. I think we should really start off, though, by just getting into the actual news here. So,
yep, let's do it.
Yeah, if you want to pull up the documents, and it's so funny because I was telling you, we were DMing, and I saw that court listener had posted an update, and it said quite simply just an enter of appearance, which I figured was Richard Hart's side because they're the ones that hadn't appeared yet. So I figured it was his representation. And then lo and behold, I see this big document with all these different attorney names on it and a lot of detail kind of picking apart the SEC complaint there. So I don't know if you're able to zoom in. I can't really read that.
I can't really. I tried. Let me see if it works to get it any bigger. Every time I blow it up,
I know it does the Twitter thing. Click on the picture itself if you can, instead of like just the post. Either that or maybe screenshot it. Or I mean snip it, the snipping tool or whatever. I don't know if that would do it for you.
Might be able to. Here, hang on.
Let me see if I can do it in the background here. Okay.
Sorry about that.
It's all good.
I don't know if I can share it then. Once I screenshot it, though, that's the problem. Well,
I think if you do the... Hold on. Hang on a sec here.
If you want to just read it on your screen, I'll put it on here and...
Yeah, I can do that. All right, so I didn't... Jeez. Yeah. Trying to... we should have been better prepared for this, I guess, but, we decided to go live out of nowhere. So let me do this. I can't read this shit off my computer. It's just too small. Okay. Let me just go to Richard's tweet here real quick. But go ahead while I'm doing that. If you want to fill up the airwaves with, he cites having 11 attorneys here, and there's multiple groups of representation here. So
yeah, there's several. I'll click through. Let's see. We can go to the last page. Does show the different attorneys. I know a couple people have posted online already about knowing who they were and where they're from. You've got one, the first one here from New York City, your second one from Washington, D.C., and then one from L.A., all with this first group. The second group, you have one from Dallas, Texas. I believe B Roots was stating that that's the one that, or there's Chris two Davis. Of them. Yeah, Chris Davis. There's two of them from that group that he's familiar with, and a pretty heavy hitter. You've got another 3 here from New York City from this group, and then 2 more from the last group, one from New York City, one from Santa Monica. So, pretty much covered, across the United States, all over the place. Maybe different states have different laws, whatever, but he's seemed to assemble a nice little team of 11 lawyers. Usually when people talk about getting a lawyer for something, there's one or two, but hiring 11, I think that alone makes quite the statement, and then to go through and read all of the precedent and cases that have been listed, which we'll kind of skim through. I don't know that we'll read all of them, but
Yeah, I wasn't planning on necessarily, and I will kind of skip over the actual like case law references because it's not like any of us have, a thorough understanding of those. We'll
right,
just see
right,
that they're listed and it would be boring. But the other one, Dipcatcher tweeted earlier, one of RH's lawyers was previously the SEC Deputy Chief of Staff, Michael Liftick. So I didn't see which group he was involved in, but he was the SEC Deputy Chief of Staff. So I don't know if you can see his name on there. I can't see any of that, but anyway, yeah, good stuff for sure. And it's funny because I'm reminded of like some old videos that I've even seen parts of recently about Richard back in probably like 2019 or something like that. It was probably the stream where he had like other attorneys on because I know something like that took place, and he was talking about somebody was cautioning like, oh, you should have at least your whoever, you should have some kind of securities lawyers on hand or something. And the thing you said at the top of the show about like the narrative about like, oh yeah, he's on the run and all these people acting as if they know something. Look,
yeah.
nobody really knows anything. But I mean, I think an assumption like that, first off, I just don't, with the guy being visible during that time, I just don't understand people saying things like that.
Well, that, and it's stated here, if you read through this, I think number one was that he hasn't even been clearly served, or
Right.
properly served, I should say. It states that right there. So being on the run, I don't know anybody who's going to just show up to court and say, "Hey guys, I hear you're looking for me." That
Well,
just
yeah,
makes
there's a
absolutely
difference
no
between,
sense. There's a difference between being on the run and just waiting it out, which I believe he was doing. But it played, whatever, time played its course, and he decided now was a good time, and went forward with it, and still hasn't been served. So that goes to say a lot for someone who supposedly is on the run. They just don't come
yeah.
forward like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. So let's go ahead and go through this. So this is from the team of attorneys here to Carol, Honorable Judge Carol Bagley, Amon. I guess that is her actual last name. But they say, Dear Judge Amon, we represent defendant Richard J. Schuler, who goes by Richard Hart, and submit this letter pursuant to Rule 3A of the court's individual motion practices and rules to respectfully request a pre-motion conference and to provide a summary of the basis of Mr. Hart's anticipated motion to dismiss the SEC's complaint. Blockchains are the world's first and only immutable digital public ledgers, publishing messages, literature, art, commerce, computer code, and more. Richard Hart is an innovator in blockchain communications technology who has been interested in its ability to benefit society since he first learned about Bitcoin in 2011. The complaint alleges that Mr. Hart developed 3 open source blockchain communication software programs, HEX, PulseChain, and PulseX. The complaint alleges that Mr. Hart and somehow the programs themselves violated the federal securities laws by selling so-called crypto asset securities and purportedly misusing about 3% of the offering proceeds associated with the one of the 3 software programs. They continue and say this litigation is another front in the SEC's campaign to regulate blockchain technology and digital assets through enforcement instead of rulemaking or awaiting legislation, which I think it's really great that they said that piece because I mean that is in the public forum. I mean, like we've
yeah.
talked about like judges catching wind of this stuff from other precedents and things like that. So I'm glad that they do lead with that. Its effort is particularly misguided in this case, where the complaint attacks certain blockchain software programs running on a decentralized ecosystem of computers across the world. There is no business, corporation, enterprise, or foundation behind them. Again, something that is a differentiator compared to what the SEC has been used to so far. rather a global community of individuals who have independently chosen to run these communication software programs using their own labor and computing power, bearing individually the risks and rewards of doing so, which is true. Mr.
Yep.
Hart, exercising his constitutional rights to free speech and association, has spoken in favor of these and other communication software programs. He has also extensively described their limitations, risks, and downsides, which the complaint casts aside as it cherry picks sound bites from hundreds of hours of Mr. Hart's wide-ranging public commentary. Which, I mean, yeah, hundreds and hundreds of hours of him speaking is out there. You can find and edit and say things however you really want to from, I think, anybody that has spoken to that level. For the reasons set forth below, and as will be detailed in Mr. Hart's anticipated motion, the complaint is without merit and warrants dismissal with prejudice, meaning that once this is gone, it's gone. They can't bring this up again. So what do you make of that? I mean, that's just kind of the opening page and everything, but I think they did a really good job. And I'm glad they brought up that point about the SEC specifically in their, what they've been doing.
Yeah, no, it just speaks of what we've been talking about for so long, and there's such overreach. They haven't set any kind of precedent. They haven't decided on any regulation, but yet they're willing to say, they're breaking the law that we haven't determined on what really is law and what isn't. So, the funniest part of this whole page, though, is the footnote at the bottom, how they say that, naming HEX, PulseChain, and PulseX as alter ego defendants is truly bizarre.
Oh, I somehow thought that was a cutoff. My bad. Yeah, I love that part.
Yeah. Under the SEC's own definitions, they're a digital asset token and two software protocols. How software programs can be entities subject to suit defies logic and precedent. So, and they go on to say, the non-existence of these entries aside, the complaint lacks merit against them too. So, I found that very interesting as a footnote to page one. How they call it alter egos, and
right,
because there is no because there is no company, I think they kind of had to word it that way as a stab, in a shot in the dark, maybe. But yeah, I really like how they called that out as well.
Yeah, the alter ego thing was always weird. I mean, I think a lot of people didn't really understand where they were going with that.
Yeah.
Well, I know where they were going. They were trying to act as if that is him or something. Which,
right, exactly.
Yeah. So that's the opening page. Did you want to go? I have the next part up here on my phone. I can read. Okay, so here's where they kind of go just piece by piece here, answering to the SEC complaint. So it says the complaint fails to establish personal jurisdiction and was not properly served. So this is something you and I were talking about. The court should dismiss the complaint under rule. I'll just let you guys fill in the blanks there, because it fails to plead that Mr. Hart, who has not lived in or done business with the United States for well over a decade, has a connection with the United States such that he should reasonably anticipate being hailed into court there. And then they give some case law precedents there from 1980. It pleads no U.S.-based entities, employees, contracts, payment accounts, marketing efforts, or travel. The complaint merely asserts that an unspecified number of U.S. residents engaged in transactions and that Mr. Hart discussed the software on social media. That does not approach what is necessary, i.e. contacts that the defendant himself created with the forum, rather than with the persons who reside there. And they cite what looks like at least two different case laws here. Nor are the websites at issue alleged to have conducted registrations, taken user information, processed payments, or expressly aimed themselves at the United States, with some other case law there. The court should also dismiss the complaints rule under Rule 12b-5 because dropping papers at a Finnish police station is not valid service, which is something that we talked about as well. So what do you make of some of that, and particularly there the service thing there at the end, which is a big thing that we've seen? It's like, I mean, how can you call this service, or will the U.S. recognize it as that?
Well, now that it's started, I think they'll recognize it as, now he knows. What I mean? He's kind of coming forward is almost like, I hear you're trying to reach me, So I think it's sufficient enough. I don't think they would throw it out on those grounds. However, some of these other complaints are quite substantial. I don't think that one is huge. In the only way that it is the fact that, like we were talking about earlier, he's clearly not on the run. He's come forward on his own accord with his lawyers and said, hey, I hear you looking for me, and here's what I have to say about what you've got to say. So, yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot to this part. Although, as far as him being outside of the United States, I don't know. I don't know how that'll work.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean,
Sorry,
well, I do agree with you. Like, I mean, with him, himself coming out obviously on Twitter and retweeting this and saying what he did earlier, which I actually should probably read his tweet here in a minute. But yeah, maybe the service thing, I'm not sure how much it would matter now at this point. But
yeah, I don't think it will.
But I see where they're coming from there. In terms of the next part here, so they say the complaint suffers from myriad pleading, constitutional, statutory, and regulatory deficiencies that mandate dismissal under Rule 12b-6. So they say, first, the complaint fails because none of the transactions at issue are adequately alleged to have occurred in the United States, making the SEC's claims interpermissibly extraterritorial. Then cite some case law to establish the required transaction that title was transferred or irrevocably liability was incurred within the United States. They cite some more case law there. A conclusory, that's a tough one, assertion that securities transactions took place in the United States will not suffice. They cite case law there. Here the complaint does even less, alleging only that there were some investors in the United States. That is not nearly enough, as a purchaser's citizenship or residency does not affect where a transaction occurs. I'll just read the rest of it. So then they say, second, the complaint fails to allege facts that could support the conclusion that HEX, PulseChain, or PulseX are investment contracts and therefore subject to the federal securities laws. The complaint lacks a single allegation of any contract involving Mr. Hart or anyone else, let alone an investment contract. Without that, the complaint does not plausibly allege the existence of any security. They cite some case law there and say a host of other failures to plead an investment contract also warrant dismissal, as will be explained by Mr. Hart's motion. The final thing they say here, third, the complaint fails to plead fraud with the particularity of Rule 9b requires. There are no misstatements or omissions alleged, let alone any that are material, nor is scienter sufficient pleaded. Indeed, the complaint identifies no deceptive statement or conduct at all. So yeah, about the earlier part there, regarding, I thought it was interesting about how they talk about alleging like some investors in the United States. I mean, like, this is one of those things where, how do you really give me your thoughts on that? Because I just don't understand how you can really get any clarity out of those claims by the SEC. And it was it's kind of more of that, like, them throwing things at the wall to see what sticks here.
Right. And I think the most important part of this section is the second thing, where if it were an investment contract, then you could potentially have a security. But there is nothing, there are no investment contracts, and there's especially no contract. Well, there's none with anyone, especially with Richard Hart. So, a smart contract and an investment contract are completely different things. And I hope that, that the courts do their diligence and understand, which I'm sure they will, that these cases are becoming more and more popular now. Obviously, they're throwing, cases against everybody. So if they're not educated on it yet, hopefully they will be soon. I'm sure him and his lawyers will do a bang up job trying to educate them, throughout the whole process. But I think that's probably one of the most important parts about this is that there is no investment contract.
Right.
There's no complaint. It says they do plausibly allege the existence of any security. So, and they go on to state, like you said, several cases here. I'm just seeing reason after reason after reason to warrant dismissal. So hopefully that repetitive, you know, wording gets through and they end up throwing it out. But again, we'll have to see.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, and I mean, you can do this with the SEC complaint as well. We are reading, a very well written, professionally done with case law,
Yeah,
representation from Richard's representation. So anytime, that's the thing. That's why when people, I think, read a lawsuit, even if it's a frivolous one by the SEC, who kind of just goes after everybody, it looks scary because they kind of sound like they know what they're talking about, even if they may not. I'm not saying that that's what's happening here with his representation. I actually think that they're far more equipped, and he's far more equipped to deal with something like this than probably literally anybody else in crypto. But yeah, keep that in mind too. So, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, yeah, I would like it to just be dismissed because of this. But we've said this from the beginning. I mean, this is largely a shakedown by the SEC wanting to
sure.
collect money from him. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, oh, okay, we could never make anything anywhere near or found anything like you did or innovate anything at all, so can we scalp some money out of this scenario? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I actually didn't realize this, but yeah, there's a continuation of that part 3 that gets more interesting too. It says it offers only a conclusory assertion that individuals hold on, had a quote unquote reasonable expectation about how alleged PulseChain assets would be used, despite being explicitly promised nothing, which is totally true.
Yep.
About how alleged Pulse. I already read that line. That does not plead deception, let alone support a strong inference of fraudulent intent. They give case law there. Seeing as PulseChain was developed and did launch, so there is a product, the securities fraud claim boils down to the SEC's disagreement with how 3% of the PulseChain's alleged assets were purportedly used, an issue falling squarely outside the federal securities laws. And they cite case law there. To find otherwise would convert any instance of corporate mismanagement into Rule 10b-5, and they cite case law there. So, yeah, what do you think about that? Because, I mean, they're talking about how that wouldn't even be within their jurisdiction.
Well, yeah, and you have corporate mismanagement, but there's no corporation. So
Right.
it's just, again, throwing things at the wall to see what stick, and following with outside. Yeah. So I mean, now would I be surprised? I think I would. I would be surprised if DOJ even gets involved with this. I think that's whose jurisdiction that would probably fall under.
Yeah.
But it's got to go through this process first. So I don't want to, put the cart in front of the horse. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so it's hard for me to give my thoughts on this when, you can pick apart little things, the things that we've been saying all along. But yeah, it's 3% of alleged assets were used for what? For advertising? What people aren't allowed to do that kind of thing is, and
Right. Well,
so yeah,
and to the bigger point, I mean, like, even if it isn't the SEC's jurisdiction, that kind of gives you a look into how they would defend that. You know what I mean?
right, right,
Regarding the whatever you want to call that
sure,
money. So, we're almost done here. So, just a couple points left. So, number 4, the court should dismiss the complaint because the SEC runs afoul of the major questions doctrine by way of this action. Executive agencies have only the power specifically granted to them by Congress. They cannot undertake a transformative expansion in authority without clear congressional authorization. The SEC seeks to impose its will on the $2 trillion digital asset industry, but recent legislative proposals make clear that Congress has not delegated authority over digital assets to the SEC. To the contrary, the industry's regulation remains the subject of an earnest and profound debate. Rather than follow the political process or even engage in rulemaking, the SEC seeks to press forward with regulation by enforcement. I mean, we had that conversation at the top of the show. The court, and have been having it for years. The court should halt that effort and dismiss the complaint for exceeding the SEC's lawful authority, consistent with recent Supreme Court precedent. So I think that's a key to that last sentence, Supreme Court precedent, and people were speculating like, oh, could they want this to drag out or really any crypto and SEC case, drag it all out while other dominoes fall. So precedent is made. So what do you make of that?
That was my take on that whole thing too. I don't know. I looked over that the first time, and then when I read it again, I got something completely different out of it. So, I'm not sure. I think it's, it says here and elsewhere, the SEC seeks to impose its will on the $2 trillion digital asset industry.
Right.
So it's like they're just going after everybody. It's all. I think that's kind of what they're saying is they're just trying to, again, throw shit at the wall, see what sticks. Let's name this person, this person, this person, and this person, and see what we can get out of it. Am I reading that correctly? Is that what you took from that?
No, you're exactly right. No, that's exactly it. They're just saying that they're just highlighting again. I think they're really trying to appeal to the judge on a couple points here, and it's understandably why. We've talked about this for months too. I mean, it's not like it's not news. The SEC's massive failures now for years, and especially recently. I mean, like they've been on a tirade all throughout the year of 2023. I think as the bull market rages on here, that'll all just go away magically. But whenever things were at their most depressive within this industry, that's when the lawsuits tend to fly because things look better then. I mean, they themselves. I mean, I was actually looking over their complaint in this case the other day. Excuse me, and they're talking about the actual tokens of PulseChain and PulseX and everything, which at the time of their writing, they were basically at like SAC rate or right around there. And they called them, they were like, these are the current prices of these tokens, and they are practically worthless. That's what they put in the complaint. And it's like, okay, you see, like, I know what you're doing here. It's a small number on a page. So you're saying as if at one time they were $1 or something.
Right,
like that.
Right.
They were actually were like only in profit for anyone because they happen to receive free tokens. So,
well, and that's the thing too. The idea was to launch at zero, which they did. So, they were up. Everybody was up.
Yeah, people under their own free will decided to ratio trade them at that point, and prices developed out of that. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. So it's just the manipulation and some of their words is funny. So
sure.
The fifth and final thing here. So the court should dismiss the complaint as it unconstitutionally infringes on the freedoms of speech and association guaranteed by the First Amendment for Mr. Hart and those who run the HEX, PulseChain, and PulseX software. The complaint seeks to impose a content-based regulation of computer code, which constitutes protected speech. They cite multiple case laws there. The SEC's effort to halt the expressive conduct and association of individuals who believe that free speech is a protected human right and blockchains are free speech with some case law runs afoul of the First Amendment with more case law. The complaint seeks to punish Mr. Hart for discussing open source peer-to-peer communication software. And because blockchains require trading tokens for space in their public ledgers, treating blockchains and their tokens as securities, which are banned from common public trade and use as currencies, amounts to a de facto ban on the world's first and only public immutable speech technology. Such a broad and harsh form of prior restraint impermissibly chills free speech. I mean, I don't think they could have said that last part any better. I mean, that's definitely what's happening. And then to finish it off here, it says Mr. Hart intends to move to dismiss the complaint For the foregoing reasons and potentially others, the parties have met and conferred and jointly request the following briefing schedule. So the Richard Hart's representation motion due by April the 8th of 2024, 90 days from now. SEC response then due July the 8th of this year, and then a reply after that by August 22nd of this year. So Mr. Hart respectfully requests that the court schedule a pre-motion conference and approve the proposed briefing schedule. So this isn't a question that we can answer. Probably that Nuclear Herbs attorney, great account on Twitter, could answer it. But at this point, what is the next action here? I mean, I think we're going to have maybe that phone conference or whatever it is on July the 31st still, or January the 31st. And we'll just see where we go from there. But yeah, what do you make of this last part here anyway? And then we'll kind of read what Richard said here about it as well.
So the motion is due April 8th. So I don't know what will happen in January.
Well, there's already a phone conference for then scheduled. So this is purely their proposal.
Will that change, though, be due to this?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't. I mean, maybe if everybody's just like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll just go with that plan, which I doubt they'll do. Or, I mean, they could just maybe, talk about this at that phone conference, and if they would go with that, I mean, they could do that. I mean, it's 90 days for that, because this isn't the motion. It's talking about preparing the motion.
Right.
So, I think there's a chance that could happen. But as far as it stands right now, that phone thing on January 31st is definitely still scheduled. So,
okay.
I don't know what will happen there at this point. We may not get anything until that does happen. I don't want to speak out of turn. I mean, as of now, there is no debate. I mean, that January thing is still scheduled. So,
okay. Yeah. I haven't looked at Court Listener in a while. I know you said you did, so that's why I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I just don't know. I just know what's on there. I can't say, obviously, like what's going to happen as a result of this. But, what about that chilling free speech line that they put in there? Because that is exactly what the SEC's been doing. I mean, like just by throwing these lawsuits out there, like look at what they've done to some people's investments and stuff like that just by existing and doing this.
Exactly. I go back to what Richard's tweet actually said, not the paperwork. And I'm going to read through that here real quick because he says, I'm fighting the SEC for your rights. 11 of my lawyers filed this today. Ironically, today, the SEC's Twitter account was hacked and fraudulent message was posted. The blockchain literally solves exactly this problem. The SEC is attacking the very tech that it needs. Cryptographically verifiable authentication, proof and publication. Blockchains are the first and only immutable public ledger communications technology. Open source, peer-to-peer software. Millions of people use blockchains to publish pictures, text, messages, literature, and more every day. Technology is the future. We pray to the courts to defend the Constitution and your rights. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're, with that fifth item, it is free speech. And when you look at it that way, and he's listed 1, 2, 3, 4 different case law regarding that.
Right.
I don't know. It seems like, without reading the cases and knowing how they went, it's pretty solid. And if it comes down to a free speech, they would have to classify it as that, and then that would open up a huge can of worms, right? I mean, for just about everything else, saying that blockchain is free speech. I don't know. I think it really gives the whole crypto communities as a whole such a leg up, and people should definitely appreciate what he's doing.
I definitely do. I think everybody in this ecosystem does, and I think that it is of all the eventualities of this and all the stupid speculation that many people have been throwing out there, acting as if they know one thing or the other. I just think that this is really encouraging. I mean, I'm really excited to see him just go at this head on with what looks like fantastic representation in abundance. and take it very seriously, and I understand, I guess, why some people wanted to speculate because of the way, Richard can act and the things that he says and what his personality is like and all that stuff. But he's not stupid. I mean, I just never, ever did I think that he was just going to ignore this.
Oh
You know what I
no.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
it just, I think it was an asinine proposition. And people that
Yeah.
just didn't really know him well enough would say
Well,
that.
if Richard's been good at anything, it's timing.
Yeah.
You have to admit the man has a knack for timing of different things. Whether it's, everyone likes to complain about him calling the top all the time, and um, you know, launching things at a pretty damn good time with Hex, and now
Yeah.
it appears that PulseChain has probably launched about a year out to shake out those weekends, and now things are happening, and it's just timing is huge, and he seems to have a knack for it, and I really think that he's done his research and figured out when things should probably fall into place, and he's usually a couple steps ahead. So
Well, I think it's timing, and he's an opportunist too. I mean, like with these are the events of today. I mean, you couldn't draw it up any better. Like with the SEC and everything that they did, tweeting out whether they
right.
were compromised or not, or whatever the hell happened. The fact that they tweeted out, "Oh yeah, we're approving all the Bitcoin ETFs," and then like minutes later, Gary Gensler's account, "Oh no, we were compromised. That isn't true." Regardless of what really did happen, I mean, we all are highly suspect, obviously, of anything that they do. Um, eh, the fact that Richard saw it and used it, took advantage of it as he should,
Yeah,
citing it for this issue today. I mean,
yeah,
it's fantastic. And yeah, you're right. Timing, he's opportunistic. Yeah, I just couldn't draw it up any better, really.
right.
So, yeah. Well, in terms of this and this all coming out today, us reading through the response, do you have any kind of final thoughts on that before we move into, you know, things that are pretty similar topics anyway? But what other thoughts do you have on this? I mean, to me overall, I'm very happy about this, and so is the market. The market
Yeah,
already, as we're going to get to, was
it's
starting to recognize real DeFi and invest in it. And now they really are. So
yeah. I just think it's super bullish. I think it should squish a lot of about half of the comments and complaints about what was transpiring.
mhm.
Half of them should go away. And as this case goes further, should squash the rest of them too. I'm bullish. I think it's super bullish. um and again, the timing is fantastic. We'll talk about this too, but the sacrifice funds moving, being used, things like that. Well, now they can't be confiscated if you're buying product with it, right? So,
Exactly. Yeah.
I can't. Yeah, I just think it's amazing timing. That's
Yes.
my overall thoughts.
Totally agree. We're 45 minutes in already. So if you guys enjoyed that anyway, I know it wasn't exactly maybe the most thrilling thing constantly, but I want to get it out there. I mean, like I personally was eating dinner and I just wanted to see like, hey, is anybody streaming about this to kind of put what I'm reading into like video or audio form? So hopefully we were able to kind of do that for some of you. But smash the like if you're enjoying the stream so far. We got a long way to go and other stuff to cover here as well. But yeah, I tell you what, do you want to just go ahead and pull up prices of the ecosystem Ewok, and we'll look at where we are right now because we're higher than we've been in months, really, with
You want
everything.
Bitcoin,
Oh, I
Ethereum
don't care
first?
about that. No, I
Okay,
don't care about
all right.
that. I mean, unless you do, but
No,
yeah,
I'm good.
BTC I know has been a bit volatile today because of everybody praying that an ETF gets approved. So I mean, yeah, it's gone from like 46 to 48 and back down. So there's kind of your BTC analysis. But yeah, it's a volatile day in the markets. I mean, we both agree if we want to just have this real quick conversation. We've said this before, but with a Bitcoin ETF, if when ever it does get approved, denied, whatever, I think with an approval, which we did think for about 20 minutes today, that we will see a sell-off. I mean, I said to you, I said like, well, into this weekend, I'm sure we're probably going to see a sell-off off this news.
Yeah.
And now it's not happening. So whatever. But do you agree kind of with that whenever the news is real anyway?
Well, obviously, we'll see a buy up,
Temporarily.
as
Yeah.
we just did, but it won't last long.
Yeah.
It may get us to 50, 55, maybe.
Hmm.
But I see it ending there and having a substantial pullback. Again, as when Axis was on the stream last week, we kind of determined and came to the conclusion that we would see a pullback no matter what.
Yeah.
The only thing is, if there's an approval, you'll see a run up first. If there's a straight up denial, I think it's going to hurt. I think it's going to really have a major pullback, and we could get down to levels that we haven't been at in a while. So the only good thing is your introductory pump before people start to sell the news. So that would be the only good thing about the ETF getting approved.
Yeah, I think we're going to go down regardless. I mean, we've touched 48K. That's been a big level of potential resistance for
Yeah.
BTC for a while now. So, yeah, I think we'll be back into the 30s for a bit here over the next couple months, maybe into the halvening. So we'll see how that goes. But looking at our ecosystem, though, we got Pulse now only at about 35%. No, 25% below the
26.
stack rate. Yeah,
Yep. 26%.
Hitting through key resistance here today, getting up over that 7 number, which it had a hard time maintaining there a couple months back, I guess that would have been. Pulse X now still heavily down, still an opportunity. Really, all this stuff is like, despite these pumps today, I definitely still want to buy at these prices. Pulse X down 77% from stack rate at this point. We've got the combined HEX is now over 2 cents again, or right at 2 cents anyway, a little bit over like 2.1 cents total. HEX in particular up 40%, just a cool 40% over the last 24 hours for HEX. So we are pumping, which does lead us. I mean, do you want to go ahead and look at the Pulse chart real quick, and then we'll get into some of the stories about these big buys over the last few days that we have seen, big buys potentially coming. But as far as the chart goes, I mean, these last 2 days, I mean, we've pushed through some really, really key areas. Today being the real big one, of course. So, yeah, what are you seeing here? And we know there's not a lot of air right here. I mean, well, there is just air basically up to sack rate from here. I mean, looking at it here. So, yeah, what are you seeing, Ewok?
Yeah, I haven't looked at the liquidity chart, but we know because it came, from this level at pretty much 3 zeros and a 1, which was the sack price, all the way down when it fell. It tried to get back up, and it only made it to just under where we're at now. It ended up
Right.
closing at 7.3, which is under where we're at now. So we've actually cleared that level. We cleared the 7.495 area, or 7.4, which there was a ton. You got resistance here. All of these candles bounced off of it several times. They tried, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 7 days trying to get through that level at like 6.5, and it couldn't. Finally broke through there, but we know there's been some heavy hitters moving some coins around and deciding to play in the ecosystem as well. So that's always a help, and hopefully it says to a lot of other people that say, "Oh crap, I sold. I might want to get back in." And sometimes that's exactly what happens. Is it triggers a chain reaction of people thinking they're going to get left behind. And then, if it holds or whatever, then those buyers may decide to do a little bit more. But yeah, this is looking really good. We have busted through some of these key levels, and we're testing another one right now. So hopefully we can get another close, get up about to this 8 4 zeros and an 8, and hold. If we do that, I think, like you said, there isn't a whole lot between there and SAC rate of 3 zeros and a 1.
Yeah. Yeah. We've really blasted through some key areas here. And it's so fun. I mean, literally like 2 days ago, we were at quad 0.5, just at 5 flat when, we were really, really getting at peak fear, I think, for everybody. So as I, wait for funds to clear to get in and miss it all, but what are you going to do? I'm not going to bitch about prices going up, but what's that, the weekly?
Yeah, this is the weekly. I like to zoom out to the weekly a lot just
Definitely.
to get a better picture. You get a daily and you're seeing a whole lot of just chopping sideways for a lot of it. But when you pull out to the weekly, you can see a better structure, and it's definitely hit the floor, got up, had a retracement, and I think we're looking to be in pretty good shape. Not
Yeah.
financial advice.
It's looking pretty good, and yeah, it's starting to feel like maybe sack rate isn't all that far off here. But
Mm.
yeah, in terms of, again, and we're at these depressed prices for so long, where your mentality is kind of just like, well, of course I'm buying every single thing I can get into the market ASAP. I'm buying, and then you see something we're not used to at all, and 2 days like this, and you're like, oh shit, should I back off the gas a little bit? No, I'm not. I mean, like, yeah, maybe I could wait and see if there's a small retracement from here. You never want to just put, some huge lump sum into anything necessarily right away.
Right. So SAC
But
rate is only 34% away, by the way,
right.
just to throw that
Yep.
out there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, as long as we're below sack rate, I am going to buy. I mean, I'm still right there before I, maybe taper it off a little bit. So, this we have great bullish action right now, but still a wave I'm willing to ride here and put my money where my mouth is, basically. So, in terms of kind of what we've seen happen the other day, yesterday, I guess everything feels like it's so far off now because of everything that's going on. But
Right.
so we are seeing what we will call from now going forward, because that's what it is, the largest DAI holder in the world on Ethereum. This person, this entity, they, them, whoever it is, um, basically used $3.7 million, it appeared, of DAI, bridging up into the PulseChain ecosystem and buying things up yesterday, it looked like. Massive buys that got us these huge green candles. Then we have rumors, not rumors, I mean, on-chain data of the entity person that's been called God Whale in the past. And you'll have to fill me in on this because I didn't get the whole thing, Ewok, but apparently having access suddenly to, or I don't think they've bridged it in yet, but somebody saw that they have 2,500 ETH potentially just there ready to go, which I mean, it's like $6 million. So,
Yeah.
yeah, what can you fill in some blanks on me there with what was seen as far as what God Whale
Well,
has or
just
maybe doing?
just from what I gathered, there was some funds moved to a new wallet.
Okay.
That's all that was tied to the God Whale's old wallet.
I see.
Um, it wasn't a whole lot, just like getting them ready.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, but still movement enough to let or give the option that, or of give the appearance that they know
Could
what's
be.
going on, right?
Right.
And they're in a position now to make a move if they would like to.
Yeah, and maybe it's a little presumptive, but I mean, like with people that have done on-chain data in the past and tracked that wallet, especially with things that are going on right now, it would be highly interesting if that money were to bridge over at
Yeah.
this point. So we'll monitor that. I mean, what we're seeing today again is just more people being bullish on the news of actual DeFi and what crypto really has always stood for, being fought for. By Richard Hart and his representation and everything. I mean, people are all about it and just realizing what these products are, and I think that is a huge signal, will be a huge signal to the rest of the crypto market. And these people that, if they're already left, sometimes it seems like we don't see that on Twitter as much, but people that care about real crypto and understand what it really is, because I think that's a big thing too, not to get way too sidetracked here, but I'm guilty as charged. I'm sure many of you guys watching are as well, and other people in the past too and present. Um, you get into crypto in crypto investing, and you really don't know what crypto is for a while. I mean, you think you do, and you think that when you get funds onto Kraken, Coinbase, Gemini, whatever your choice is, and buy Polkadot, Matic, these highly VC backed, essentially like companies, XRP, with Ripple. Sure, I guess it's different than buying stock in a company. I mean, you are buying tokens, but I mean, you are buying into something that is already heavily VC backed with a business attached to it and all these things. The tokens that you're buying on that exchange are not actually in your wallet, and you think you're buying crypto, and that's why as you get through this crypto kind of evolution, that's why people like you, Ewok, and all the Hex OGs and everything clung on to Richard's messaging so much, because you realize like, oh, everything else is, I don't want to say total bullshit, but I mean, it's not this. It's not as authentic as what this is, you know? Do you think people are going to realize that? I mean, I think the advertising might be the green candles and everything that we're seeing right now, but when will people realize, like, when you're buying the Solana top as Arthur Hayes and other investing geniuses that are, far beyond what I myself am able to do, but still people are out there just riding stuff that's already moving that we know has timed token unlocks for the whole calendar year that are going to be dumping on you, and do they care, I guess? And when will they realize what actual crypto and DeFi is,
Oh, they'll realize when it's too late. We've been trying to scream it from the rooftops for a while now and say, hey, over here, this is what, this is real DeFi without all that other crap that is holding it back. And they'll learn. They'll learn. And, that's why another reason why I had originally said that, I think cycle 2 for PulseChain, PulseX, those type of things are going to be enormous. People want us, some bigger investors, they're not overly concerned about 1000x, 2000x, things like that. They want to see that it's proven. They want to see that it makes it through the first cycle, second cycle, and then they'll buy. Kind of like Hex this cycle. I think that's why I think Hex is going to have outsized returns. People are hearing about it. I don't know if you saw earlier, or was it yesterday? Maybe it was yesterday in the conference. That Corey Geary and Dane had that author.
Oh, the real estate. Yes.
He's written fantastic. Like 8 books, and the guy is relying on them as coaching for his next. Dude's a millionaire. He's got streams of income, and that's what he's written books about, is how to create different streams of income. And he's looking at Hex as his next passive stream. Pretty crazy. When things make it through that first cycle and people kind of wake up to it and say, well, I guess this one's not going away. It adds a lot of good reputation to it. And you'll see more and more people getting into it. Same with PulseChain, I think the next cycle. But that doesn't mean we can't have outsized gains. Just some of these bigger investors aren't going to be willing to put a whole lot into it, like a lot of us have. So
true.
I think it's still going to be good. I think they will wake up and see it eventually, or they'll do what they did the last time and see it and jump in at the top and buy green candles and bitch about it the whole way back down, So,
well, that's probably going to happen.
That's how it works.
It does, and you can't fix it. There is no fixing that. I mean, that's just the psychology of people and markets and things like that. And it is what it is. Call it what you want. It just is. So I think we will see that. Let's answer Philly's question here, because I think there's a lot of merit to it, and people, we know that sack rate. And for those that don't know what that is anymore, because it's been so long and you've been DCAing and you don't care about sack rate anymore, which is understandable. It'd be 3 zeros and a 1 for PulseChain and PulseX. So PulseChain obviously much closer. But yeah, do you think that we'll go sideways at that number for a while? I'll leave it up to you first, Ewok. What do you think?
I was going to say, what do you think?
Well, let's just end the stream, and neither one of us will give our thoughts. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. No, I do. I think that we will see that. I mean, even though we're seeing these huge green candles right now. And as I keep refreshing the prices tonight, it just keeps freaking going up. It's insane. But no, I don't think we just smash right on through there, because we do know that there are big wallets that, did sacrifice for this, that just want to get back to there again and will sell. So yeah, I mean, I could see that being the next big point of resistance. We may be on, I mean, this may be us closing on it now. I mean, like, again, we just look, there's not a lot of, we just have an elevator basically up to there right now. And yeah. So yeah, what do you think?
So
I think
I'm gonna be the contrarian to your opinion, and I think it's gonna go right through it. If you sacrificed, most of the people that had bigger wallets had a amplifier bonus, like depending on how much you've gotten. So for a lot of people, they're at sack rate now. They've been at sack rate, and actually some of them have been in profit already. So that being said, I don't think the 0.0001 is as important, maybe mentally, but I think a lot of people will be in profit before that. So we may have trouble getting to it first. I think once we do and wash those last few out, it's been a while. A lot of people that have sold are getting out. I think now with the letter that's out, with the money that's moving in, I think people are going to maybe hold off on trying to take profits and say, well, let's see how high this can go.
Yeah, like a week ago, I was thinking about getting out of this thing, but suddenly now that the price is up, I got a sudden change of heart. Yeah.
So that's kind of how I see it. I think we kind of smash right through it. I don't think a whole lot stops it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what the next level of resistance would be. I haven't really looked at it that closely, but
there's not a lot of history.
Well, there's not.
There's above not. That, I mean,
but maybe up here to this 1, 2, between 1, 2, and 1, 5, and that's with 3 zeros. I think we hit a little bit of a wall in here, but I think we get through that sacrifice rate pretty quickly and easily.
You said it a minute ago, and this is why I still stick to where I think we could kind of oscillate there at the sack rate a while. Number one, Philly's even asking the question. So the fact that he's asking that question, it does show that that is a psychological thing, because it isn't just him that would be asking that question. A lot of people, I think, are looking at that. Like, we all are, even though I said there a moment ago, like, some people may not even know what it is anymore. Many, many do, of course. And, we know that that is a mental thing. So we'll see. I mean, either way, I think you can answer all these questions for yourself individually, like, to anybody watching. Like, if you know where you no longer want to, you aren't going to be aping in as much funds based on where the price is. Like, you just have to make those decisions on your own,
Right.
Not that Philly was trying to get us to tell him that, but me personally, I mean, up until sack rate, I'm definitely still aping into everything, and probably even a bit beyond sack rate. So, I mean, we'll just see where we're going here. But yeah, I could see us kind of being a little lazy around that area for a bit. So we'll see. Where do we want to go to next year? We got so much to talk about. Go ahead.
Yeah, we do. I saw a comment. Someone had said that Hedron and Icosa are pumping hard right now. And I was just looking at Dex Screener, and I don't see.
Oh, they're pumping.
I'm sure they are. I don't see them on the top movers, though.
Here, I'll go ahead and I think he just means, I mean, frankly, as much as you would think they'd be pumping more than other stuff, everything's pumping so hard now, I don't think they are anymore. Also, because Icosa and Hedron already were pumping, because people were putting money into those the last few days. So, yeah, Icosa is up to almost 10 cents on PulseChain now. It was at 3 the other day when I bought it. So, cool little 3x there in 2 days or something. Yeah, Hedron on ETH is up 50% a day. I mean, it's tied to HEX. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Hedron's tied to HEX basically. And then where is Icosa on ETH up 40% today? It's at 6.5 cents. Yeah, I mean they're flying too. Icosa on PulseChain isn't as up as much as everything else because it already made a colossal move, you know. So it's one of those things where like
Well,
it's moving too. But
10 cents is looking pretty good.
yes, it sure is.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get into this is just an epic show tonight because we're gonna get into like some of the mechanics of Icosa and Hedron a little bit tonight, as well as Communis, which is seeing, you know, a revival, especially now that prices again are going up. I've been seeing a lot of Johnny Sachs tweets about it and the secret weapon and everything we've been talking about Communis for a few weeks now. It just turned a year old today, actually, because it was launched at the end of last year's HEX conference. So cool to see that. So we're going to talk about all those three tokens, especially as leverage on HEX and on this whole ecosystem, because yeah, I know people have been paying attention to them and there is a lot of room to run there. So especially, you know, that question that Philly just asked, there may be a time where we start to have these pulse prices get high enough to where like, oh my God, like I'm really decently in profit on these now. And you do want to take other maybe little flyers or something. And there's other tokens with a lot of good use in this ecosystem. Yes, even some of the memes that are probably going to fly and already are flying that you can take a flyer on. So yeah. Do you want to transition? Well, first off, hey, I just want to say to all you guys, we really appreciate all of you being here. This is a great day. I'm happy it's 2024. We just went through over 2 years of frankly dog shit. So it feels good to be here. We have fun things happening right now. Do us a favor, smash the like. We appreciate all of you being here. You know, it hits the algorithm. It makes people realize that you want to see more content about real DeFi. Don't do it for us. Forget about us. Or like, oh, I bet these guys are making money from YouTube or whatever. We do a little wee bit from YouTube. But you know, we want people to actually see this content so we can spread the word of actual DeFi. So we appreciate all of you guys doing that. Let's talk real quick about this HEX conference. It's insane. You know, we may have double the viewers right now if it weren't going on. So totally understand if people are over there watching that. I'm not sure who's on right now. But what has kind of stood out to you so far? What are your overall thoughts on it? You know, we were going to talk about some of the not so savory comments by a couple people regarding the conference. I don't know if you still want to do that because I don't really have much time for it really anymore. But I just want to say that what Maddie is doing is freaking insane. Whether there are people now stepping up to help him, you know, from liquid loans and things like that, or not, what he's doing is no small undertaking. And what we have here, regardless of like, oh, the liquid loan symbol is a little bit bigger than the HEX symbol or whatever else you want to complain about, this just isn't happening in crypto. I'm sorry. This isn't happening in other crypto communities. And I understand some people might have like legitimate little beefs about like, well, I just think it should only be about HEX and this shouldn't be okay. You're not running the conference. You can run one if you want to. And I just think it's phenomenal that we have something like this because this just is not happening in crypto. I mean, show me where else this occurs.
Yeah,
they're going for a Guinness World Record for amount of streamers on at one time. Tonight, is it tonight? When is that actually happening? I don't know.
Well,
yeah,
I don't know either, but I will tell you this. I've been in Maddie's presence while he was running the live conference in Vegas. And I know he has never really made any money. I mean, he does this out of the kindness of his heart.
Yeah.
He will make enough to break even, pay for some things that they need. But he is very selfless. He does it for the benefit of everybody. And anybody that tries to say, well, I don't know why they're taking sponsors. Well, they got to pay the bills, man. He needed a few things, and they agreed to do it. And why not? They've built on PulseChain. A lot of those guys from Liquid Loans are from HEX. So it all ties together. Like we're all in the same corner here. And, you know, I see nothing wrong with it. You know, if anything, people should be thanking him for the hours and hours that it takes. I don't know. I can only imagine trying to coordinate everybody, get them in there, get them in the green room, make sure they're ready to go while you're trying to set up the next one. You know, people are in and out or doing what it's got to be a madhouse. It's like herding cats, I'm sure. I can't even imagine it. I mean, the guy is so selfless, and he does a lot. You know, he's been doing this for over, I think, I don't know, almost probably 100 weeks, probably almost 2 years of his every week show. And then to do this on top of it, yeah, Matty deserves a lot of credit. He deserves a big shout out. People need to thank him for what he's doing for the benefit of the community. It's amazing. It's selfless. And he just does not get enough credit for it. So I will personally say thank you for all you do, Matty. You're a pillar in the community, and you know it often goes without being said, unfortunately.
I agree 100%. And there's been so much good content, because that was another criticism I saw. And again, I don't want to concern myself with those too much, but people like, how much does a conference all about HEX with a bunch of people who are already in HEX really help growth or anything? Just because of the fact that it exists, man. I mean, like this isn't happening anywhere else,
Yeah.
And sure, like, I mean, there are certainly people within this community, just like any community, that are assholes. It's just the way it is, that aren't the best at like maybe potentially onboarding or presenting what the product is in a nice way to other people or something like that. Yeah, there are people like that. I totally agree. And, you can't speak for everybody when you talk about the community all the time.
Yeah.
But what you're seeing in this is largely not fluff. I mean, you and I have watched. I've skipped through some. I haven't watched every pure second of the whole entire thing. But there's not a lot of fluff. There's been some fantastic segments.
Yeah.
Alex McWhirter and Dipcatcher the other day.
Yeah.
I feel like our little fireside chats, those two guys would have fit right in. Alex looks like he's right out of our neck of the woods, actually. Yeah. But there's just been some great segments. Axis Alive. I'm trying to think of some of the other really good ones that I've seen. The Crypto Coffee with Fashion Coder and Corey Costa that I saw just this morning from yesterday. I mean, there's just been so much good stuff. It's fantastic. I mean, like all of this happening right now is just really bullish. And the fact that these people will not go away, just the fact that they exist and this is going on, is a bullish thing. It doesn't matter that it's like, oh yeah, you're invested in it, so you're talking about it. Well, yeah. And they're not just talking about HEX either. I mean, they're talking about other things built on top of it and other things that make it great. So
right. And why they're built. And when I was watching the other night live, there were over 800 people live watching. So you can't tell me these algorithms aren't pushing it out to other people. You have to, you have to realize that there are other people just Hexicans that are watching this. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. Is there a segment? Maybe I took them all from you, but is there a segment or anything that stuck out in your mind of like some of the favorite stuff you've seen so far?
No, not. I won't say a favorite. I've enjoyed a lot of the ones that I've been able to tune in for. There was a good one last night that had RG3, Kodiak. Who else was on that? Cabana and shit.
I know which one you mean, but
either way, it was good to kind of see. Kodiak is the builder of Communis token. So
yep.
So it's kind of interesting how they twisted that one to say, no, dude, because he has trouble explaining it to people. He built it, and he has trouble telling people what it's all about. And it was cool to see Cabana and RG both say, hey, look, man, you build it. You're the big brain. We'll explain it. Once we figure it out, we'll be the ones that can explain. Oh, it was KG.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, it just hit me as soon as you were recounting it. Yeah.
So
I don't know how we forgot him. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, all of a sudden these guys are talking and, KG brings up the point where every transaction on Internet Wallet burns HEX. And they're like, what? I didn't know that. I don't know. Did you know that? Did you know?
I zoned. I was reading a comment. I admit it. I zoned out on what you asked. What'd you say?
Did you know that every transaction on Internet Money burns HEX?
No. I did hear him say that too. Yeah, RG3 flipped out about that one. He's like, "Why isn't that the first thing that you say?" Yeah.
So I mean, even as Hexicans, as day one Hexicans, man, we still learn stuff. So I don't know. People complain about it being whatever circle jerk and only the hex people. I still learn. I enjoy learning. I like to hear from people I don't always hear from, and I like to support them. So, yeah, that's
I agree.
that's all I got to say about that one.
Yeah. Yep. Totally agree. It's been fantastic so far, and I'm looking forward to catching up on what we are missing tonight and what may be coming up later. I don't know what it'll be, but I'm definitely interested in seeing it for sure.
Well, Mr. Chink says that RG and Mikey, the guys from the movie, are going to be on tonight, but I'm pretty certain if you go to hexconference.com, it has the schedule, and Richard's on for 10 p.m. So.
Okay, I didn't see any of that officially, so yeah, we shall see. I hope you're not wrong about that, because if you're misleading our viewers, then I'm gonna let me see, what is it, hexconference.com?
I think so. I'm gonna go if you want to lead into the next one.
Okay, yeah, you go ahead and do that. All right, so let's get into this. I'm trying to, again, we had a whole show prepared and then like a shitstorm brewed today, so we're just kind of jumping around. Let's get into I want to make sure we're hitting the best stuff here, and let's just get into this Icosa and Hedron stuff right now, as well as Communis, since we were just talking about it as well. All three of these tokens. Now, I'm not buying Communis really right now. I mean, it's kind of broken out, and again, I think there's so many people who are kind of unaware of it and don't understand what it is and how it incentivizes long-term hex staking and how you can claim it. It's another one of those things, just like when Hedron and Icosa launched, that it's like, okay, man, I'm looking at this page. There's a lot of things to read. I don't understand it. What do I do? Do I just claim it? What does it do? What do I have to do? And again, just like that stream last night talking about Communis, it's like, how do you simplify these things to people? What do they mean? So we're gonna discuss these tonight. I went in kind of a deep dive yesterday with Communis. Ewok, you already knew more about it than I did, so we'll have you break it down too. Before we do that, though, did you find what you were looking for here?
Yeah, you want me to share the schedule here?
If you want to. I mean, not that there's that. Okay, whoa, there you go. Cool.
Can you read it?
Nope. We got another zoom in problem. We're gonna have to zoom, and
okay.
There we go.
Right. Well,
there you go.
Well, so it is
zoomed.
I did. It says 11 p.m., I'm sorry, start time is 10 p.m., but that's Central Time. So it's actually 11 Eastern for Richard's stuff. RG3, Mikey, what time is it now? 8:49.
Yeah.
So 7:49. So they're just about to start their Randy Hilarski Hex Tangent. Then some of the highest stake stuff, Toby, Kinetics, Big K. And then you got Axis, Westcott, Hex Monkey, and Cultivate Crypto. And then Richard comes on. So
yeah.
So I was right on the time. It was just in the wrong time zone. So
Mr. Chinks, no, we are not going to be on. And I mean, nothing really to read into there other than just we're not. I mean, to me, it shows, because not that we have like one of the biggest streams or anything like that, but we've built a little bit of an audience, and it just, to me, also shows like just how many people are out there in this thing, because I mean, there's people I didn't know. Ewok, I mean, you're a total OG, so you probably know all these people, but
I know most of them.
There's plenty that I wasn't aware of before. So, and there's a lot too that don't even have that, like, a presence. There's a lot that like are just kind of there from the beginning, maybe have a relationship with Maddie and wanted to volunteer their time, even if they don't have like a stream or tweet often or anything like that. So,
well, and also I didn't reach out to Maddie. I know Maddie was like, hey, if I forgot anybody, let me know. I didn't reach out because, I just didn't. I don't know if we would have been invited, or we stream a lot at the same time, so maybe he's not aware of us, which is fine.
That could
be. So
I didn't really, I mean, I didn't even really think about like trying to get on necessarily. Or I know some people are like, oh, I got to be on, and some drama ensues about that, whether they get on or not. But then there's others who, I mean, just not really a big thing. I just didn't really think about it. I don't know. I honestly wanted to just take it in rather than be on it, really, to be honest with you. So,
me too.
There's plenty of big people out there that are not on it too. So anyway, so I'll do the precursor again. Icosa, Hedron, Communis, some things that are big.
You're good.
No, I know. I was kind of
Okay.
just resetting for when I clip this up later and try to make it look nice and everything like that. So
Gotcha.
this was to
Sorry.
me in the editing room.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Icosa, Hedron, and Communis, all big hedges on this ecosystem right now. So here's what's really interesting about Icosa and Hedron. So they both, we just mentioned it a few minutes ago, but they've been pumping big time. Icosa was already pumping before the rest of this ecosystem kind of took off. So here's what's actually happening right now. And I made a video on this last week to kind of bring more clarity and just put it in video form. But Alex McWhirter, the founder of both those tokens, did put out back in August what he's working on right now. And he thinks that, you know, cross-chain operability with these, now that we do have HEX on Ethereum, since these are both tied to HEX and Icosa, specifically to the T-share. So if you don't understand Icosa, it basically, as the value of the T-share goes up over time, the value of Icosa would go up. So buying Icosa, holding, staking Icosa is a hedge on the value of the T-share, or you know, will go up as the value of a T-share does. So what Alex is really trying to do is combine Icosa and Hedron into Icosa Hedron as one token, in which what you would do is there, it sounded like there will be a 30-day window once this is complete. Now, as far as I know, and it sounded like this was the case when he was on the stream the other day, there hasn't been a test net or anything like that yet. He hasn't even had it out for testing. He speculated he'd be doing that in Q4 of 2023. Don't believe that happened. But he's there. He's working on it. He was just on stream the other day. And it sounds like there's going to be about a 30-day period where, if you so choose, you don't have to do this, but you could basically send in your current tokens that you do have of individual Icosa and Hedron to receive this new combo token, which would be tied together and I believe be able to work on both chains. Again, Alex is much smarter than me, so some of it's going over my head, but I know it's interoperability between the two chains is a big thing. He also is working on the ability, and you just talked to me about this the other day, Ewok, is how cool it would be to be able to stake HEX on a PulseChain. Now, you can already buy HEX on PulseChain if you wish to not have the extra gas fees or deal with fake DeFi Uniswap or something like that on Ethereum. You can buy it on PulseChain and avoid the fees if you're one of those people that believes there's value in HEX, of which we do. Yeah, so he is building that stuff, and I think it's going to be huge upgrades. I don't think it's going away. I think they're probably the best thing that's been built on top of HEX so far. But yeah, I'm super bullish on it. I'm really looking forward to it. And again, I threw a huge flyer, well, not huge, but I threw a nice flyer on Icosa on PulseChain at 3 cents the other day, and happy to be up over 3x already. So very nice indeed. So what do you first off make about what Alex is doing there, and where could you maybe fill in some blanks that I missed? And how are you feeling about them long term? And then we'll kind of get into the Communis stuff.
Yeah, well, both Hedron and Communis really revolve around the T-share.
Icosa, you said Communis. You meant Icosa,
well,
Hedron and Icosa.
Both.
Oh no, you were right. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
They both really revolve around the value of the T-share, and they've really captured the value, you know, in a way that no one else really did. So I think that's why they kind of got a hold of the community like they did and took off, because it's a really cool idea. The even better thing is, when you did you watch Dipcatcher and Alex? You say you did?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they were discussing, and I don't know if you know this or not, but Maximus is also a tokenized version of a long 15-year a Quattro Cinco stake. Right. Those, or once it's done, we'll also be able to mint the Hedron. So when that one was locked in, I think it was locked in at a 6x, maybe a 7x bonus. I forget what it was at that time, but either way, back in the early days of Hedron, you know, you could claim a bonus if you locked them in and claimed it at that time. And so Alex is even considering how we're going to do this interoperability with the new token, all the Hedron that Maximus stake is going to earn. in a way to kind of let them into the system at that point too. So I think he was kind of rethinking that whole 30-day thing, where there won't be just a necessary 30-day window. Those stakes will that stake, and the Deci and the other ones too that are out far, will be able to earn those as well. So that's pretty cool. I just, yeah, those guys are such big brain individuals, and I appreciate all they do to build it and the time that it takes, um, and the testing and everything like that to give us another real DeFi product. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like them both. I like all of them, and then what I really wish for is some sort of dashboard or something that would kind of walk people through your end stake and say, hey, mint your Communis. Hey, mint your Hedron. Hey, now
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can end your stake, and kind of do it as a boom, one click. I think that would be pretty awesome if you could combine it. Now, I know, what was that platform that they were going to launch, and it might have already launched, and nobody talks about it anymore. It's the one that had the 5 different tokens you could trade for one.
Is that Tetra?
Tetra, yes.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's
So
funny how these things, yeah, I know you forget about them so quickly, but
we
yeah.
forget about it, but it's one of those things where I think that was one of the things that they were working on, was a way to do multiple kind of
Yeah,
transactions in
you can
order,
swap
right?
5 tokens at once, basically,
Well,
yeah.
but no, but I mean, to do something very similar to what I said is
Mhm,
mint your Communis, then mint your Hedron, then end your Hex stake, um, all with kind of their platform. So
mhm.
that's kind of what I'm looking forward to, because I still see, more people, once they learn the value of the T share. I still don't think people get it. I don't
I
think
agree.
they understand how rare these are going to be.
Mhm.
And every time I see, a 5555 stake on Twitter, on the whale thing that broadcasts them every once in a while, I see how few T-shares they're getting now, and what they were originally, and what that same amount would have gotten early. And it's like, man, the value of these things, I just, we're so undervalued right now because of the value of the T-share, that people just don't get it. And I
Yeah,
hope once they get it, they get it. But I hope they don't keep waiting, because it's going to be hard for people to get T-shares pretty soon. You're
yeah,
going to need a lot of hex to get a T-share. So I
yeah.
don't know. I wish people would catch on to it and see the value in it. But
I do too, and yeah, it's one of those things I've thought of where, like, kind of the dilution of this ecosystem as far as some of where the funds have gone from the investors that were already in it, where, just the natural evolution. I'm not even saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that, like, first there's Hex, but then you have a new chain. People want to buy the chain. People want to buy the DEX token, which understandably so. I think PulseX is probably better tech, and with the fee switch and everything turned on, the best opportunity to buy a DEX that's in crypto.
yeah,
But with all that stuff, we are seeing less of, like, oh, let's talk about what a Hex T share is. Like, here's how you make your Hex staking ladder. I remember that stuff from the last bull market and even into the bear market and stuff.
yeah,
With Hex streamers, because it's like, well, there's not really much else to talk about other than, like, speculating about when will PulseChain come out or something like that. So, yeah, I do think, as this market rages on and maybe things calm down a little bit, also, getting into and also Richard Hart getting vindicated for these products and everything as well. Um, I think looking at the long term mechanism of the T share and getting back to Hex staking basics and how that stuff works, it's going to be a valuable thing. And I know you've said to me personally that, like, you regardless of any ups and downs of Hex price or anything like that, any amount of staking that you've ever done, you have no regrets about, because you just believe in it so much. It's, obviously it's a smart contract that can't really be messed with or anything, and the T share just gets better and better and better. So, um, with that, I was kind of wanting you to, it might be a little bit too big brain for as much time as we want to dedicate to the rest of the show tonight. But if you wanted to talk a little bit more about Communis, how you can and how you actually do mint it, and what the qualifications are for even being able to mint that token,
Sure,
and what
I
it
can.
really incentivizes. That's what I was kind of hoping
Well,
you would do here.
yeah, well, we can do it quickly. I'll try to give the best overview I can in the shortest amount that I can.
I will
Um,
link the app in the chat for everybody if they don't know where the Communis
y-
front end is.
yeah.
So yeah,
Okay. So if I get any of the small statistics wrong, please forgive me because I didn't refresh before. I'm just going based off of memory, but um, you need to basically what Communis is it rewards a long-term staking behavior. Okay. Um, as long as you stake over 180 days, I believe, you're entitled to a reward when your stake ends and when it begins. So at the beginning of your stake, you get a start bonus. This is one of the things that Johnny Sachs went off and did a 2.5 hour long video on, which he calls the secret weapon. It makes a lot of sense. It really does, because if you understand what he's trying to get at, that claiming of the start bonus once you create your long stake um, would in turn act as a coupon. Um,
hmm
if we can get the price of Communis up enough to where your reward essentially covers the exact cost of what you just put out for 5555, um, it's a no-brainer, right? You're staking out, just let's say it's 500 bucks. You're going to put $500 out into your future 15 years. But when you do that, you're rewarded with a start bonus on your Communis. What if that equaled 500 bucks? What if you just got a free 15-year stake for 500 bucks, and then you could use that $500 to do whatever else you wanted?
hmm
Um, it's a pretty good incentive. Now, it's going to take a lot of work from the community to get it up there, a lot of liquidity, a lot of building, uh, and there's a ton of tokens. There's quadrillions of tokens out there.
of
But when you,
Communis.
yes, but when you realize it's only held by stakers, and the majority of it is by long-term stakers, which means a lot of it's locked up. So, um, either way, at the very beginning, you get a 25% bonus back uh, upfront. And then at the very end, you get the other 75% if you remember to do it before you end your hex stake. So it's a neat way to reward good behavior. If you don't claim the start bonus right away, it does kind of trickle. I forget the percentages, but it
I
does
don't
go
know that that's
down.
listed there, because when you mentioned that the other day, sorry to
It
cut you off, but
it
I couldn't find it easily. There's a lot of info on that front page that I just shared in the chat, but yeah, I didn't see the percentage kind of drop off like if you don't claim it right away.
So if you just go to the Communis.app without the dashboard, if you go to that and you go down to start bonuses, there is a way. It's in there how you get a little bit of a delayed. If you wait till the end, I think you only get 15% of the start bonus or something like that. Either way, it's not much. You don't get the full amount, but
Mhm.
again, that's basically what Communis is. It rewards good behavior of long staking. Um, if you get the time to watch Johnny Sachs' secret weapon video, he does break it down. So the more time that you put in on your stake, the higher the reward. It really amplifies, even from um, from 10 years to 15 years. For example, I think it doubles. I think you really only get
Mhm.
about 50% at 10 years. At 15 years, you get the full 100%. So you have to check it out. Don't quote me on the numbers, because again, it's been a while since I've seen it. But the idea behind creating a coupon for making a very long stake that could someday eventually, equal what it costs you to make that stake is a great idea. It's a great onboarding tool to get people to delay gratification and to put stuff out into the future. Lock more of these tokens up. That's what it's going to take. It's what it's going to take to see these prices get out of control. Is a lot of tokens locked up for future supply off the market. You're not going to be, people are going to be in line. RG3 says it all the time. People are going to be lined up waiting to buy Hex one of these
Yeah.
days, because there's going to be so much locked up once people understand the power of the T-share.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, it rewards long-term staking. So, I mean, as long as you have a 6-month minimum stake or 180-day minimum stake, you will be able to claim that Communis, get that start bonus right away, as soon as you want to. I mean, you don't have to immediately, but part of the challenge, of course, is if you have your hex stakes on ETH there, you got that ETH fee for claiming it versus PulseChain, which is going to be minuscule. So
Yeah.
I went through and finished up any PulseChain ones that I had to claim the other day, and I'm just kind of, I mean, Gwei hasn't been terrible lately, but I kind of want to wait till this weekend and see how low I can get to claim that stuff. But yeah, go grab it. You get 25% of your total Communis right away. And then the end bonus would be whenever you when your stake matures at the end of that time. So
Oh, and the last thing that I forgot, at the end, you have the option of taking it as liquid. There's 4 options. You can do 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100%. You can stake it instead of claiming it to liquid to your wallet. You can actually stake it. I don't believe there's any penalty to unstake it, but if you stake it, you can earn more. And there's payout periods every so many days. It's a payout period based on your shares of the system, is how you're rewarded. So keep that in mind too. You can stake it if you don't want to spend it right away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely worthwhile to grab. And it's just another one of those things. I mean, like it's another basically incentive, like an airdrop that you can, not an airdrop, but I mean like you can claim it just by participating in Hex and having long-term stakes. So definitely something to go grab for sure. Yeah. So Icosa, Hedron, Communis, all things that are going to incentivize long-term Hex staking. They're going to be tied to it. And we are seeing them take off right now. And I am, man, just super bullish on like what Alex does have in store for Icosa and Hedron, and
Yeah.
yeah, just further understanding of all this stuff. It's funny, again, as we've said so many times tonight, as the market starts to take off and as the green candles come, kind of makes people want to understand this stuff more. Like you had Johnny Sachs talking about this Communis stuff 3 months ago, you know, on Maddie's stream or whatever, and you know, some of we and me too. I mean, like I watched it and I'm like, I don't really totally get it. You know, whatever. And then things start popping off, and it's like, okay, I need to understand this stuff. Let me go claim all this. You know, let me figure out what this is all about. So, you know, that's first mover advantage. I mean, you get to take advantage of things before other people do if you want to look into them when things are boring. So this is kind of the way it goes. Tell you what, I don't want to go too much longer tonight. We had a few other topics that I think would be fantastic to push to next week because we've covered a lot. I think it does probably make sense to wrap up with this since we did just talk about hex staking and everything. So before things got wildly bullish just 2 days ago, one of the big things to talk about tonight was going to be that OX Steph, basically creator of the Staker app, which has been kind of the premier way that people did track their hex stakes since, well, whenever it initially launched. I don't know when that was. And, you know, you could see your little sea creature levels on there and everything. It was kind of like really the go-to way where a lot of people not only tracked their hex stakes, but used the front end to make their stakes, which I will say I never used it to do that. But I know people have. But yeah, it was very interesting because not only did people notice that, I mean, the Staker app really has been not working well for months, since a year maybe, since they did the version 2, V2 update. So I think people kind of had an inkling that something was amiss. And then, of course, we have other things being built like Go Pulse, and we knew Hex Scout was in the background working, which is now live. Anyway, we do now have confirmation. It came out on our stream with Axis Alive last week that Steph tweeted, the Staker app tweeted that it was no more. No other like updates are going to be happening. I think you could still access it on the web, or I don't remember the whole tweet. Mine still works, I believe,
Sure.
as well as it did anyway. But yeah, it's done. People were very kind of skeptical about what went on here because it appeared to them that Steph wiped anything dealing with Hex from his Twitter history and all this, and he's separated himself from it entirely, and he's talking about a new token, and what's going on here. And it's one of those things where it's an interesting conversation, and I want to get your thoughts, Ewok. Okay, on its face, it's like, well, this looks shady. This is weird. Why is he doing this? Why would he scrub his social media of all this stuff? And then I also get the other argument of like, okay, well, if he sold a big bag and he had employees to pay and things that he had to do, I can't blame somebody for that either. I do think like if it really did happen, I'm not going to sit there and investigate his Twitter history. But if he did really scrape everything, I find that a little odd. But who knows? I'm not him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And obviously I think a lot of us are forgiving it even more now. Not that it was our business anyway, but forgiving it even more now, that there are green candles. But what do you think? Because I never liked the Staker app that much. I know you were kind of in it from the early days when it was better. I never used it as a front end to stake Hex at all. To me, it's like we're losing something I didn't really use anyway. But what do you make of this whole story?
It's just funny. It made me think of green candles equal the Men in Black little thing that erases everybody's
The memory eraser.
because it really does. You know what I mean? When there's green candles, they forget about all this other stuff and really just focus on that.
Hey,
Kinda
keep real quick though. Keep his wife's name out of your mouth. I just want to make sure I say that about Will Smith. Just
okay.
Will.
I will.
Yeah,
I'll leave her name out of your mouth. My mouth.
okay.
Right.
So
yeah, you have to give the guy credit. You have to realize what he did for as long as he did, and him and Firebun both. People only say about Steph. Firebun was just he was the guy behind the scenes. He was one of the main coders that put a lot of stuff together. He's the one that came up with the leaks. So, that we use today for everything. Yeah. There's sharks and squids and dolphins and turtles, and every coin is out there. And I've seen other tokens doing it too, because we were the first. But I see other communities doing it as well. So, you have to give them credit for what they did. And just because it didn't work out doesn't mean there weren't a ton of hexagons onboarded because of it. Yes, I have some stakes from Staker app. I put a couple on there, but I think mine still work. There were a few. One of the reasons this fell through was the way there was a bug when a mass amount of wallets were created. It did something and mixed up the seed phrase. So when you put your seed phrase in, it didn't recognize you as the owner. So you couldn't do anything with it. Unfortunately, they did have a fix that was kind of just a beta type test that would fix it temporarily. But I don't know how it's going to handle it moving forward. They said it will be in the web app. The web app will be up for 15 years. Apparently, it will be able to handle all the stakes that people did, and you can enter them through there, but just the app will no longer be supported. Now, I don't know how long it'll stay on the App Store. I don't know how long the app will stay good. As long as you use it, I don't think it'll go away. It just, you won't get any updates to it. So,
yeah,
people are going to build businesses and they're going to fail. But they tried, and you got to give them credit for that. I completely appreciate what they did. They onboarded a ton of people, whether they used Staker app or whether they didn't. Most people were only using it as a way to monitor their portfolio because they had multiple wallets. It was the easiest thing to do, to put your couple different wallets in there and watch them all, So for many, it was just a way to monitor all their portfolio completely at the same time. So, I listen, the guy, he was also an employee at Google. I don't know if many people know that. They all say about Jack Levin being number whatever, 2021, whatever.
Yeah.
Steph was also there similar time back then as well. Maybe not, whatever. Maybe he was
number 19. He might be number 19.
Maybe 100. But either way,
yeah.
He's a smart guy too. And just because it didn't work out doesn't mean that he wasn't valuable to this community. And I think people forget that. And, there's got to be a lot more forgiveness from people, Now, granted, he's going to come in and shill another token to everybody. That may not be accepted. That
Yeah.
may not be accepted. But for what he did, we could need to at least say thank you for trying, right?
Yeah.
That's
I think
just
that's a really thoughtful way of putting it, everything that you just said, because a lot of people are spewing a lot of vitriol toward him.
yeah,
Look, I do get it too. You also have been around kind of since the beginning. A lot of these people haven't, like more. My experience with Staker has been like, honestly, early on, I liked it. The old
yeah,
version, I was like, oh yeah, I
right,
mean, this is sleek. It's cool. Everything loads actually when I open it.
right.
But now, it just has for the large most of the time I've used it, it has not worked well. And
Right. And I think that's where a lot of this comes from, right? V2 didn't work that well. So people got
yeah,
upset. And I'm sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to
you son of
to
a bitch.
barge in there, but that's why. I think that's why there's animosity right now, because V2 had issues.
Yeah,
And so
I think so too. And it's just, it's not as if Steph was the only person that was kind of like, oh, I think this new breed, and call it what you will. I mean, like cycles in crypto go, so crazy and then so terrible in their lows, as we've seen here over the last couple cycles.
yeah.
And there is a new breed, a new OG, if you will, like Pulse OGs now, that also invest in Hex and things like that, that are fed up with, I don't mean, and I'm not generalizing, I'm just kind of giving you what's been happening. The um, editorializing of it anyway. It's like that, we're fed up with the OGs. All these OGs were in it for the long haul and they're selling. And some do look like that. I mean, I get
Yeah.
it. I understand people to think that. And to round this conversation off, do you think what we're seeing here partially, because it certainly feels that way, is that, say what you want about people now, not necessarily being Hex OGs, but I mean, I'll tell you, if you're a Pulse OG, I mean, you've got a lot of the same story to tell, I think. I mean, you have had a lot of shit uh, for a long time here. And maybe it's not the same thing as being a Hex OG, but I think people that stuck all this stuff out, if they get a transfer of wealth from older OGs that are no longer around, they deserve every piece of it,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. What do you make of that? Because it feels to me that like kind of a new breed this cycle is could be minted, millionaires
Yeah.
now. Or
I'm
yeah,
starting to despise the term OG because they group everybody into one basket and say UOGs are selling, UOGs are dumping,
right.
UOGs are this or that or whatever. And I haven't.
Yeah, I was gonna say because you are not one of those. Yeah.
I've taken a tiny bit of profit, but I sacrificed and I took a few bucks out here and there, but I didn't dump on anybody's head for any reason. I set limit orders, in fact, so I didn't hurt the price. So
Right.
yeah, just grouping everybody together, not the same. And I kind of I don't like it. Um, I don't think it's fair. There's so many people in this community that a few bad apples are going to ruin it for the rest of them, and that's how it is, I guess, with anything.
Right.
But you know, it was a lot different. I mean, we didn't know in the beginning, so now you at least know that there was 4 years under the belt for Richard Hart and Hex. The people that invested in PulseChain at least had that to go on. We
Right.
didn't. We didn't
Right.
have any of that. We had this guy who had great ideas and sounded pretty cool, but people were nervous. There was a lot of FUD, a lot of FUD. So it is a little bit different. I'm not saying we're better than the OGs now for Pulse. I don't mean it that way.
Yeah, I
But
get it. It's
but
different.
it's different. It was a different learning, and I think that's where they always say diamonds are forged when there's the most pressure,
Hmm.
and that's how they're created. And I think there's still going to be that core of diamond-handed individuals that were forged in that very beginning, that may never hurt the price or have to sell. They're going to hold it. They're going to take a little bit here and there when they need it. There's always going to be people that dump it, but you know what? So what? That's what
Hmm.
we're here for. We're all here to make money. I don't care how you spin it. The people that are worried about other people dumping are because they wanted to dump first, and that's usually why they're upset about it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on the whole OG and
Yeah.
who's dumping and basket, putting everybody in the same basket. I don't like it at all.
Yeah, I'm with you. I will say though, it does. I just want to say for some of the people that are newer to this market since the last year and a half to 2 years or something that may have been new to PulseChain, and I get where you're coming from. I don't think it's the same thing, but I don't think one has really anything to take away from the other. I mean, like anybody that's been new the last couple of years has definitely earned still being here at this point, when things turn around. So I think that too, but I get where you're coming from for sure. It's two different things. There wasn't that confidence of what am I missing?
I just flipped off Degen Moonboy back when I was a
Okay.
kid.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I feel like
we're buds, guys, so it's okay. I
yeah.
just joke him
But yeah, I'm with you. I think OG gets overused and stuff like that. So I forget who I saw say it the other day, but they retermed it as old guard instead of original gangsta, because that's really where that does come from. But anyway, yeah, the more important conversation though, to wrap up here, what are the best alternatives for the Staker app? It's already what we've been using. Hex Scout, I think, looks awesome. Go Pulse is now, amongst all the other crazy, awesome updates and good things they're doing, integrating Hex staking as well. So they're going to put that in there too. So we have resources here. Hex Scout is phenomenal. I think they're still in the works for creating an app. I don't think it's out quite yet. But the desktop, which we reviewed a few weeks back on this show, looks very good to me. So.
Yep.
Yeah, that's about it for me. I think that pretty much wraps it up. This, what anything else from you, Ewok, before I kind of do our little wrap up here?
No, man. Head over to Matty's stream, give him some credit, say thanks, and finish out your evening. But yeah, no, that wraps it up for me.
This has been a crazy, awesome news day. I mean, just it's been a crazy couple of days with the markets really waking up to this ecosystem. Then the gaffes by the SEC yet again today, where they get compromised on Twitter, and then Richard Hart being able to call it out and as well go answer to the SEC. So this is phenomenal. It's nice clarity, I think, for us to have here. Hey guys, I would pop on over to Twitter too. There's Money Gang Crypto and Gold Key both have created threads about further highlighting the all-star attorney team Richard Hart's assembled. So there's some really cool stuff out there. I was just checking out. So
nice.
We appreciate all you guys being here. Before you get out, hit the like if you have not done so already. We do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So for my co-host, Crypto Ewok, this has been Broke Boy Crypto. We'll catch you guys next week, same time, same channel, right here on the Creed of Crypto podcast. See you guys.